first thing the man does after devouring the transmigrator is squander everything overnight, scattering his entire fortune to the winds, simply because I caught a glimpse of the future within fragments of fate, and realized that the prosperity before me was merely the prelude to a beggar's destiny. As the legitimate heir to House of Fahrenberg, my life speeches always circle back to the importance of money within 3 sentences. So what if those sanctimonious fools mock me as a miser? Money buys food, purchases magical equipment, and builds a comforting sense of security. Isn't that more useful than hollow reputation? That day, I sat in the family hall, listening to the steward report this month's financial situation, and when the words "this month's income has slightly declined" reached my ears, I immediately lost it, tearing into the steward with a fierce rebuke. Daring to let me earn 1 coin less was undoubtedly challenging my bottom line. At that moment, the sky suddenly darkened, and a bolt of lightning struck straight toward the manor, and before I could react, a strange soul bored violently into my mind, babbling nonsense about how he apparently succeeded in transmigrating. In his dreams, this precious body flowing with Fahrenberg blood and filled with the secrets of wealth isn't something a nameless wandering soul can touch. I immediately mobilized all my consciousness to build a defense, fighting tooth and nail with this arrogant fool until, within moments, I obliterated the transmigrator's soul. But what I never expected was that his pathetic memories would forcibly embed themselves into my mind. "Young master, are you alright?" A trembling servant's voice sounded beside my ear. I came to my senses, feeling countless unfamiliar memories crashing wildly through my mind. The content pieced together from those strange texts nearly gave me a heart attack on the spot. The end of the world will arrive, and demons will invade the mortal realm in force. Emetian, descendant of first Emperor Kalinos, will emerge as the continental hero, while I, Fernand Fahrenberg, heir to the prestigious House of Fahrenberg, will be cast out by my family for colluding with demons and ultimately become a penniless beggar. What kind of cursed joke is this? Going from a soft bed piled with gold coins to begging under a bridge would be worse than death itself. This prophecy is the greatest nightmare of my life. In the days that followed, I searched through every intelligence network the family had, trying by every means to trace the origin of that soul, but naturally I found nothing. But what made my blood run cold was that the events mentioned in the prophecy were gradually coming true. I relied on this foreknowledge to seize every advantage in the merchant guild, raking in massive profits. Yet the more wealth I accumulated, the more anxious I became, because it meant the future where I become a beggar was approaching step by step. I must find a way to reverse this cursed fate. To further verify the prophecy, I turned recent newspapers inside out, while servants muttered nearby. Could it be the young master still hasn't fully recovered from being struck by lightning? Just as my eyes were swimming from reading, one piece of news made my pupils constrict sharply. Imperial descendant Emetian successfully admitted to the academy. This matched the prophecy's description exactly. At this point, I could no longer sit still, so I made the call immediately to head for the southern swamps. The moment I stepped into the swampland, the eerie atmosphere in the air made me even more certain of the prophecy's authenticity. I burned 3 key prophecies into my memory. First, I will be expelled from my family and become a beggar. Second, King Kalomo will summon 72 ancient demons. Third, Emetian, the hero who will save humanity, as a descendant of first Emperor Kalinos, will enter the academy seeking the first emperor's map, then come to the southern swamps to obtain the soul sword. Emetian is not only the protagonist of the prophecy, but also directly connected to my future. Yet I simply cannot understand how my future self offended this person badly enough to end up in such a miserable state. Because I haven't seen the complete prophecy, with some parts remaining unclear, I can only make deductions based on the general content. Following the prophecy's clues, I found the injured Emetian outside the swamp dungeon. Looking at the glaring pool of blood on the ground, I cursed myself inwardly for arriving too early, but I could only steel myself to act as if I had just arrived. I put on a stern face and pretended to reprimand Emetian. This is a restricted area for freshmen. After introducing myself, I gritted my teeth and pulled out a bottle of top-tier healing potion, something 10 times more effective than low-grade potions and which cost me a fortune in gold coins. But I still had to put on a generous front. Even though your family has fallen, you are still imperial descendants. Consider this my investment in your future. Yet my heart was bleeding. If not for changing my fate, who would willingly give away such an expensive potion? Emetian took the potion with surprise filling his eyes, probably not expecting the rumored miser to be so generous. Half an hour after Emetian entered the dungeon, I quietly followed. The dungeon was now empty, clearly already cleared by him. Magical lamps lay scattered around, yet I could feel no magical fluctuations whatsoever. A complete waste of resources. So many valuable magical lamps just left here? This kid clearly has no concept of money's importance. It pains me to see this. With such naive behavior, can he really be the hero who saves the world? According to the prophecy, the injured Emetian will find the soul sword in the dungeon. Sure enough, by the time I reached the altar, Emetian had long vanished, leaving only faint traces of the soul sword's presence. In the prophecy, at this moment he has already been transported to some remote alley in the Empire. This means everything in the prophecy is true, which means my future as a beggar is about to happen, causing my heart to sink. I must hold tight to Emetian, this high-potential investment, but in the prophecy he values reputation greatly, so approaching rashly might provoke his disgust. After returning to the family estate, I asked the servant with some inner conflict, if you discover a guaranteed profitable investment, but you and the other party don't get along, what should you do? The servant casually replied, "Young master, money makes the world go round." This statement truly opened my eyes. The words were right. Demonic destruction and all that is just a temporarily overwhelming complex problem, but fundamentally, bearing risk to gain returns through investment follows the same logic. Personality differences are mere trifles before enormous wealth, and I, young Master Fernand, happen to have plenty of money. So I immediately set out, rushing back to the academy without delay to find Emetian. The academy's dormitory hierarchy is extremely strict. Excellent students ranked in the top 10 by examination scores live in Rabbitous Hall, while students ranked 10 through 30 reside in Brez Hall, and those ranked beyond 30 can only stay in Devis Hall. At this moment in a student student dormitory in Devis Hall, a sword's voice complains wildly in Emetian's mind. A descendant of Almian living in such a place is absurd. If the former emperor knew, he would surely climb out of his grave to deal with the demons. Emetian sighs helplessly. The family's decline cannot be blamed on others. The first emperor not only abolished hereditary succession, but also surrendered most of the territorial assets, which led to the imperial family suffering suppression from the 7 electoral families for nearly a century, to the point where even the ancestral sword techniques have been lost. Hearing this, the sword hastily comforts him, saying that with Emetian's exceptional talent plus its assistance, they will eventually restore the imperial family's glory. On my end, I knocked on the door and got straight to the point, asking if he had time to share a meal with me. Emetian was about to say he needed 10 minutes to prepare when I adopted a lecturing tone. A senior invites you to eat and you dare make them wait 10 minutes? Back in my day, when I received a summons, I went out wearing only my undergarments. Emetian shuddered in fright and hastily changed his answer to 5 minutes. The sword grumbles internally in his mind. How dare this vulgar nouveau riche family order around an imperial descendant? Soon we appeared at the nearest restaurant. Emetian gripped the soul sword tightly in his hand and asked warily if I was looking for him for something. I waved my hand dismissively, putting on a casual expression. Nothing special, I simply wanted to treat you to a meal. Looking at this honest and straightforward person before me, I truly cannot understand how my future self could be bankrupted by someone like this. At the table, I casually asked Emetian what goals he had after graduation. Unexpectedly, at these words, Emetian's gaze instantly became incredibly determined. Most people come to the academy to expand their networks, but he never engages in such things. He is long tired of others viewing him as fallen royalty. Even with only the title remaining, they are still former imperial family, so he has always wanted to become a royal knight and reclaim his family's glory. This stirred something in me. So this young man appears docile on the surface but is actually deeply ambitious with clear goals. I silently congratulated myself for not directly throwing money at him as sponsorship, which would certainly have wounded his pride. This matter must proceed slowly. I need to play hard to get first, and when the time is ripe, pull Emetian into my camp. Time passed quickly to late night, when a servant hurried over to report to me in a low voice, saying that Miss Louisa had come earlier, thinking I would return soon and waited, but after 3 hours, seeing I still had not returned, she left. The servant paused, adding that Miss Louisa apparently felt I had stood her up deliberately to suppress her spirit. I paid this no mind. She is always proud of her bloodline, so having her spirit suppressed is actually better. But in the next second, a sharp headache struck violently, and another prophecy exploded in my mind. Emetian was silently gazing at a woman's figure. The woman was surrounded by inner demons, as if imprisoned by some force, while Emetian's eyes were filled with determination to rescue her from House of Fahrenberg. My pupils constricted sharply as a terrible suspicion surged in my mind. Could Emetian's hatred of me be because of this woman? Could my future accusation of colluding with demons also be related to her? As for this woman, she was none other than Louisa Belchev. The next day, I deliberately arranged to meet Louisa. I had already guessed that she must have concluded I intentionally stood her up yesterday. After all, House of Belchev now bears enormous debt, so Louisa probably thinks I want to take advantage of her vulnerability, using my family's advantage to suppress her spirit. From afar, seeing Louisa's silhouette, I clearly sensed the intense anger surrounding her, obviously holding back considerable resentment. Speaking of House of Belchev, where Louisa belongs, it was once a formidable clan guarding the empire's north, not to mention one of the 7 families with electoral rights. Under the impact of a massive monster wave, House of Belchev suffered devastating blows. Their former impregnable glory collapsed completely, and past splendor vanished entirely. To save the family from the brink of extinction, Count Belchev had to painfully sell all family assets, even selling at low prices the golden seal document symbolizing electoral status. These efforts remained a drop in the bucket, unable to fill the enormous deficit. Just when House of Belchev had nowhere to turn, it was our House of Fahrenberg that extended a helping hand, and orchestrating all this was my calculating father, Duke Ibn Fahrenberg. I understand perfectly well that father would never truly feel regret for Belchev's misfortune. Unlike other noble families skilled in magic, House of Fahrenberg has always desired the excellent secret sword techniques inherited by House of Belchev. For father, Belchev's predicament was undoubtedly a heaven-sent opportunity, so the family secretly intervened, blocking other nobles from aiding Belchev, ultimately forcing the desperate Belchevs to borrow enormous sums from us. Thus, House of Belchev, though barely avoiding extinction, fell into a debt quagmire, suffering unbearably from high annual interest. Father's calculations were precise. With just a bit more pressure, House of Belchev would eventually be unable to hold out and obediently hand over the secret sword techniques. But I have my own concerns. According to the transmigrator's memories I absorbed, Louisa is destined to become Emetian's lover. As a descendant of the first emperor, Emetian must both revive his fallen family and shoulder the responsibility of saving the world, while apparently not neglecting romance. He wants everything. In comparison, House of Belchev's secret sword techniques mean nothing to him. I know deeply that since Louisa will eventually become involved with Emetian, I must at least ensure he does not hate House of Fahrenberg. Otherwise, my future of being targeted by Emetian and becoming a beggar probably truly cannot be changed. So I actively approached, trying to make my tone sound sincere. Miss Louisa, I truly apologize about yesterday. Things were chaotic at the time, so I momentarily forgot our appointment. I really did not intentionally stand you up. Louisa's face showed no expression. It does not matter. She is always on the disadvantaged side anyway, and has long grown accustomed to unfair treatment. Since you say it was not intentional, let this matter pass. So what is the actual purpose of specifically asking her out today? I quickly pondered internally how to win her favor and smoothly achieve cooperation. Then I cleared my throat and spoke slowly. As you know, starting in the second year, the mage and knight departments have joint courses. Before I finished speaking, Louisa directly interrupted me, her tone carrying obvious refusal. So you want to team up with her? I apologize, but she has no interest in this. She currently ranks second in the Academy's knight department, while you are only 10th. She has better teaming options, whereas partnering with you offers her no benefits whatsoever. I directly threw out my bargaining chip. If you team up with me and are willing to cooperate continuously for 3 years, I can waive all interest. Your family owes House of Fahrenberg for these years. However, there is a condition. You must accept the terms of my financial support. This left Louisa completely confused, her eyes full of incomprehension about why I would not only seek her as a partner but also unexpectedly offer financial support, which made no logical sense. I saw through her predicament. You receive a scholarship at the academy, do you not? But I know you send almost all of it home to supplement family expenses. Apart from the academy-assigned dormitory, your living conditions are more austere than ordinary commoners. My so-called support has no ulterior meaning. I simply consider you a rare talent worth my investment. I know clearly that Louisa, like MITN, is someone who values reputation and honor extremely. Though both Fahrenberg and Belchev are noble houses, their positions are not equal. Though House of Belchev may have somewhat higher prestige, it ultimately cannot compare to imperial descendants. Unlike MITN's House of Almion, there exists direct debt entanglement between Fahrenberg and Belchev. So even if Louisa is unwilling, she ultimately has no choice. Then I continued. I am telling you that now is not the time to act tough. Moreover, regardless of how much resentment you harbor toward House of Fahrenberg, I want to invest in you as a talent. This is no empty statement. Some time ago I watched your swordsmanship demonstration. Your swordsmanship is pure and full of vitality, truly outstanding. I am certain that someone like Louisa, talented yet unappreciated, absolutely cannot refuse someone who recognizes her gifts. I shifted my tone to become particularly serious, even deliberately effusive. I still cannot forget the day I first witnessed your swordsmanship. Your technique is both beautiful and elegant, combining nobility with righteousness. That speed faster than light itself cuts through the air, yet moves as quietly and gently as butterfly wings. Your figure stirs my thoughts nightly, making sleep difficult. Louisa's face turned completely red at my effusive words. Then she shouted awkwardly for me to shut up immediately. But I did not stop. Instead, I said with complete seriousness, I cannot stop yet because I have not yet found a passage that perfectly captures your swordsmanship's beauty. Unable to handle my persistence, Louisa agreed to the teaming request on the spot. Fine. She agrees to team with you. Is that satisfactory? We then signed a detailed contract clearly stating that during the 3-year cooperation period, all interest owed by House of Belchev would be waived. Sponsorship terms would remain strictly confidential, and the contract would automatically terminate after graduation. What Louisa needed to do was simply become my course partner for these 3 years. Such terms were far too tempting for House of Belchev, trapped in debt crisis. She had absolutely no reason to refuse. Later I heard that when Louisa mentioned this matter to her attendant, her tone carried a barely detectable pride, saying he saw possibility in her swordsmanship, called her technique noble and beautiful, pure and full of spirit, even saying he had not found a passage that could perfectly express that beauty. The attendant responded indignantly. What tricks is this miser playing now, using such methods to seduce the young lady? Look at that chiseled face and those deeply alluring eyes. He is clearly deliberately tempting you. But Louisa shook her head. Regardless, she does not have that feeling of being pursued. However, the condition of 3 years with no interest is indeed tremendous help for the family. Soon my servant appeared before them. Miss Louisa, my young master awaits you at the training grounds and hopes you can go there promptly. Since enrolling, Louisa Belchev has consistently held the second position in the Night Department's class ranking, while the first rank in the Night Department's second year belongs to Almondo Wells, whom Louisa has never defeated to this day. Even so, Louisa remains convinced she possesses the qualifications to become a Royal Knight, a position only dozens across the continent can attain. She undoubtedly has the talent to advance to Royal Knight, but I sense some inner demon exists within her. As for whether she can become true unpolished jade, only testing will reveal the answer. The moment Louisa saw me, she directly demanded to know what I meant by this. I shrugged, feigning casualness. I simply want you to know that partnering with me is not entirely without benefits. I want to personally prove that I am not as inadequate as you imagine. Louisa replied bluntly that though I rank 10th in the grade and qualify to live in Rabbitous Hall, indicating decent ability, there remains a clear gap between ranks 2 and 10. I smiled unconcernedly. Regardless, such things can only be known through trial. Louisa wasted no words and directly indicated I should make the first move. I immediately activated magic, and several sharp crystal stones instantly flew toward Louisa, only to be easily shattered by her swinging longsword in the next moment. As sparks flew, Louisa seized the opportunity to charge toward me. I responded calmly by using earth magic, and a thick earthen wall instantly rose, temporarily impeding her advance. Then I rapidly gathered power, and earth magic erupted violently, with a thunderous boom that actually lifted the training ground floor. The training ground floor has undergone extensive magical reinforcement treatment. Ordinary magic cannot even leave a scratch. Louisa was completely stunned. Could it be that Fernand Fahrenberg has been hiding his true strength all along? Is this his real power when going all out? She could hardly believe her eyes. To continuously cast such high-level advanced magic is simply not the capability of a mere 10th-ranked student. She had truly underestimated me. At this rate, she will likely lose. Just as Louisa exerted all her strength, gathering her full battle aura to charge at me, I suddenly raised my hand to signal surrender. Louisa's chest heaved violently, clearly angered by me. Am I toying with her right now? I spread my hands to indicate otherwise. My magical power is simply exhausted. After all, how could a mage with depleted magic possibly defeat a knight? Louisa observed carefully and found that I indeed did not appear to be acting. At this moment, my magical power was truly completely depleted. Though she ultimately won, she felt particularly dissatisfied. Despite being the victor, she felt no sense of achievement whatsoever. The process of winning was apparently too frustrating. As if suddenly remembering something, I pulled out a beautifully packaged bag of chocolates from my pocket. This is your reward for defeating me. You like chocolate, do you not? This is whiskey chocolate produced by my family. The taste is quite excellent. If you dislike this, there is also also Phrydian's specialty world tree bark chocolate, or the kingdom of Felicia's distinctive crack and ink chocolate. Whatever you wish to eat, simply say so. I have everything here, Louisa immediately reacted. Have you been secretly investigating her behind the scenes? I am not so idle as to investigate you specifically. I simply reviewed the files of all ranked students. However, you might wipe your drool before speaking, though Louisa's mouth said no. Her body was honest. She then paused, but could not help asking, you clearly possess massive magical power to continuously cast super powerful magic, with magical limits difficult to predict, yet you only rank 10th in the grade? I smiled mysteriously. Is that not simple? Merchants never easily appear on the surface. After returning to the Fahrenberg Ducal Manor, an attendant looked at the wreckage before them. How did the magical power storage device and magical amplifier all explode like this? I explained casually. I just had a match with Louisa, and all these devices I brought were destroyed by her. And finally, even my own magical power was exhausted. The attendant remained puzzled. Why use such rare resources to duel with Miss Louisa? Is she truly worth doing this? This is naturally an investment in the future. This immediately made the attendant look at me with a face full of worry. Could it be the young master's after effects from being struck by lightning have recurred? I ignored the attendant's complaints, thinking privately that Emetienne once evaluated Louisa this way, saying House of Belchev's swordsmanship is not only swift and elegant but even somewhat noble. Now I finally understand why father is so obsessed with House of Belchev's secret sword techniques. Louisa indeed possesses extraordinary talent, but why has she never taken first place? Could it be because her equipment is insufficient? The attendant then began worrying again. How does the young master plan to explain this to his grace? The secret sword techniques of Belchev are his grace's long-cherished wish. I also felt some trepidation. After all, I had acted on impulse and reached an agreement with Louisa. Thinking about it now, I am indeed somewhat concerned. Father would not expel me from the family, would he? The servant shook his head and said with complete seriousness, His Grace would not expel you from the family. Rather, he would directly kill you. Mainly because expulsion requires going through proper procedures. After much inner turmoil, I still wrote a letter to father, truthfully reporting my teaming with Louisa and disrupting his plans, then waited anxiously for his reply. Before my eyes appeared the image of father collapsing after reading the letter, clutching his neck in anger, and terrible premonitions kept emerging in my mind. How should I write about the demon matter? What if father truly becomes angry enough to want to wring my neck? Several days later, father's reply finally arrived. I took a deep breath and steeled myself to face his wrath. The attendant stood nearby with a mournful expression. I have a feeling today might be his last day serving you. Do not say such inauspicious things. I glared at him, feeling truly uncertain inside. Could this really become the reason for expulsion? But am I not supposed to be expelled because of Emetienne? I anxiously opened the letter, and the more I read, the more panicked I became because the letter stated, You have been possessed by a demon, have you not? Having no choice, I had to immediately set out to meet father in person. I know clearly that I cannot reveal the prophecy's existence, because such a thing cannot be proven, existing only in my mind. If I told the truth, father would only think I truly was possessed by a demon, or believe I was making excuses to squander family assets. Therefore, I must produce equivalent leverage to offset the investment loss in Belchev. Moments later, I arrived at the family head's residence. Father sat in his study, his tone revealing neither pleasure nor anger. You appear more normal than I imagined. I thought you would return raving mad, or simply drugged into insanity. If not that, then a demon from the first emperor's era has returned to possess you. If none of these, then you must at least explain why you did such a thing. Because I found an investment more valuable than secret sword techniques. I straightened my back and spoke, trying to make myself appear confident. Father indicated I should continue, while his eyes carried a trace of scrutiny. Seeing this, I shook my head, feigning mystery, indicating I could not yet reveal it. Fernand, I am not negotiating with you politely. Father's tone instantly became severe, the table banging under his hand. Right now, you are a criminal who acted arbitrarily and squandered family assets. But I will not change my mind. As long as you can completely entrust the Belchev matter to my responsibility, I guarantee I will bring returns higher than secret sword techniques. Father rebuked angrily, asking where my confidence comes from. He never raised me to be someone who acts so recklessly. Surely I do not believe I can accomplish things merely by throwing tantrums? Seeing no way to persuade father, I could only play my trump card. Information mentioned in the prophecy. I had not wanted to use this card so early, but now there was no other option. As an exchange condition for me independently handling House of Belchev, I can provide intelligence that only I know. This immediately surprised father somewhat. It seems you have a privately operated intelligence organization. Is that organization stronger than the family intelligence network? Nevertheless, you may speak. What is this so-called great intelligence? On the western side of the Alris Mountains, within Viscount Donetz's territory, there exists an undiscovered magic crystal mine. This mine's value is sufficient to compensate for losses caused by the Belchev incident and can even earn the family greater wealth. Since devouring the transmigrator's soul, seeing my future tragic end as a beggar, I resolved to use prophetic knowledge to reverse my fate. Magic crystals, as top-tier ore containing magical power, are priceless. The Alris Mountains magic crystal mine intelligence I revealed was only briefly mentioned in the prophecy without detailed description. Moreover, I have not personally confirmed it, so I have no idea of that mine's actual scale. But at least this can buy precious buffer time. I calculated internally that Viscount Donetz's merchant fleet recently sank due to a typhoon, causing financial conditions to plummet. This gap provides the perfect opening to find reasonable justification for intervening in that mine. I know clearly that the prophecy's existence will eventually be discovered. All I can do is strive to gain more time for strategic positioning. Father's anger temporarily subsided. If what you say is true, then it can indeed fill these losses caused by you. However, before that, I will first send people to verify this intelligence's authenticity. Verification requires time anyway, so you should return return to the academy first to focus on studies. When there are results, I will naturally summon you back. I breathed a sigh of relief. That conversation made me feel as if my lifespan shortened by 10 years. After I left, father immediately turned to rebuke the steward, expressing disappointment that the family intelligence organization had no awareness of mineral veins even Fernand knew about. The steward quickly bowed in apology, not daring to breathe heavily. Father's tone shifted, becoming somewhat meaningful. More than this, what do you think of this child Fernand? To dare negotiate deals with me directly, he has become a proper merchant. But how exactly did he discover the magic crystal mine? In that case, thoroughly investigate his intelligence team. Perhaps that team has exceptional abilities in mineral detection. Father recalled my choices with some emotion. I clearly possessed excellent fire attribute magical perception. Yet because I understood ore could be exchanged for great wealth, I resolutely chose the path of an earth mage. That boy, from the past onward, has always had his eyes light up at the word mine. I did not expect him to actually produce something worthwhile this time. Quite surprising. Then he paused and instructed the steward, investigate Louisa of House of Belchev. See what method she used to win over that blockhead Fernand. I understand him extremely well. He would never easily invest without proper reason. Yet this time he cannot even articulate an investment rationale, which means he must be captivated by something else. If not youthful love, what else could it be? What matter could make someone who loves money even more than I do abandon his attachment to wealth before her? Meanwhile, discussions about team formation spread throughout every corner of the academy. Even Louisa learned that Arya Torta and Carlod Neff had formed a partnership. Apparently, as soon as Louisa agreed to team with Fernand, Arya immediately sought out Carlod for partnership. Arya originally ranked 5th in the Night Academy, and due to rapid progress during this period, she has now climbed to 4th place. Simultaneously, some voices suggested that Louisa definitely teamed with me for money. Louisa had anticipated this, though it remained within her tolerance, since this transaction provided enormous help to her family. At this moment, I handed her a heavy package. This is for you. Inside are spirit medicines and exchange vouchers. The spirit medicines are refined from mandragora root. The exchange vouchers can be redeemed at 5 shops under the Farenberg Ducal Merchant Guild for top-tier equipment. Louisa was directly stunned, not understanding why I would give these to her, knowing she has no ability to repay such valuable items. Have you forgotten our agreement? I will support you until you complete your studies. Louisa could not help but ask further, whether such precious spirit medicine and advanced weapons did not pain me financially. My mouth denied any pain. These are all necessary investments. Yet internally my heart was bleeding. This cost me a substantial sum. But reconsidering, if this could earn Louisa's favor and prevent my future bankruptcy and beggary, this money was more worthwhile than anything. Moreover, if Louisa becomes stronger and can participate in fighting demons in the future, that becomes even more advantageous. These things are too valuable. She cannot accept them. Louisa still hesitated somewhat, her eyes full of inner conflict. Refusing support constitutes breach of contract, triggering contract termination clauses, and generating substantial penalties. Having said this, I turned and left, fearing she might reconsider. Louisa looked at the package in her hands with complete confusion. There was no penalty clause in the contract whatsoever, was there? I even lied to give her such valuable things. Could it truly be as the attendant said, that I want to pursue her and opportunistically seize the family's secret sword techniques? In that case, let me test this. Regardless of what schemes you have, you will not obtain the family's secret sword techniques. On my end, I arrived at the classroom early, knowing Emetian would attend this class today, the first year Knight Academy's first class in warfare and practical combat training. This course is renowned for arranging formation sparring on the first day and accurately assessing student levels. According to the prophecy, Emetian, having obtained the Soul Sword Gardener, will distinguish himself in this class, officially beginning his heroic journey to save the world. To encounter you in such a place, Fernand Farenberg. At this moment, a familiar voice sounded, and I turned to see Ludger Schwaben, the second prince of the Empire's current imperial family. Ludger asked me curiously if I had my eye on a freshman. He always pays attention to those who can enter the rankings, so I must be here specifically to observe Emetian, right? Naturally. After all, he is former royalty. No one from their family has been admitted to the academy in a century, so everyone's curiosity is quite normal. I respond with a smile, while inwardly calculating how to further win over Emetian. The Schwaben family, to which Ludger belongs, was established as the imperial family a century ago after a new emperor was chosen, and is now passed down to the 3rd generation. They share the same origins as the Almian family where Emetian comes from, but now one is the current imperial family and the other is the former, making their relationship extremely delicate, especially someone like Ludger, who values authority immensely and is determined to see the Schwaben family continue holding the throne, cannot possibly remain indifferent toward Emetian, who ranks 5th in the legitimate bloodline. At this moment, I notice another person nearby who is staring intently at Emetian. It is Barian Kalbulden. He was selected this time with the 2nd place ranking from the Knight Academy, and his house of Kalbulden is eagerly eyeing to replace the Almian family and reclaim their former position as the imperial consort family. So it is this guy, and this must be the beginning of the connection between Barian and Ludger. I think to myself that every hero needs a rival on their path to greatness. The prophecy states that Ludger will seek out Barian and have him defeat Emetian to prove to the world that the past is merely the past. It appears Emetian is destined to be Barian's rival. The next sparring match is between Emetian and Antod. Both Ludger and Barian remain in the stands, preparing to witness firsthand what will be Emetian's true starting point as a hero. I murmur to myself that the prophecy states the young hero Emetian will defeat Antod in this sparring match, and from this class onward, Emetian's name will officially spread among professors and students. Therefore, this sparring match will prove whether my investment in Emetian is correct. As the sparring match is announced to begin, the battle between them officially commences. From the start, Emetian is completely suppressed by Antod with no ability to fight back. At this moment, someone nearby remarks that the sparring opponents are supposedly chosen randomly, but this Emetian's luck is truly terrible. unstoppable. Antode ranked 10th in the entrance examination, making him quite a formidable opponent for Emetian, who entered at 38th place. Even Ludger loses interest and rises to leave, never expecting Emetian to be suppressed so thoroughly. However, in mere moments, the sparring match takes an unexpected turn. Emetian suddenly strikes with force, his sword slashing through Antode's uniform. Everyone is stunned on the spot. Antode is actually losing to Emetian, but this guy is merely ranked 38th. Perhaps Emetian's fierce assault at the beginning rattled Antode, which shows Antode's lack of maturity and caused the tide of battle to turn. Antode cannot accept that he would lose to Emetian, who ranks so far behind. In his desperation, he actually unleashes his battle aura. Golden battle aura swirls around his body, making him appear tremendously imposing. Immediately, murmurs arise from the surroundings. It seems that even though Emetian is stronger than expected, he will ultimately lose to Antode. Besides, for the 38th rank to force the 10th rank to use battle aura is already quite impressive given his apparent lack of talent. I cannot help but sneer inwardly. To say Emetian lacks talent is utterly absurd. He is not without talent. His previous circumstances simply did not allow him to demonstrate it. After all, this guy is the chosen protagonist of the world according to the prophecy. Before long, the sparring match reaches its conclusion. The victor, unsurprisingly, is Emetian. I am overjoyed inside. The prophecy is unfolding step by step, and I have indeed chosen the right person. Emetian must be carefully cultivated from now on, and I must find a way to bring him to my side. Then next, I should focus on winning over Louisa. When I appear in the theory classroom, people around are still discussing whether those two really became partners, and how Louisa could have chosen Fernand. It must be because of money, right? I pay no attention to this and walk straight to Louisa. How effective was the elixir I gave you last time? Louisa is actually quite pleased because after drinking the elixir, significant improvement in strength was felt. Moreover, the new equipment is extremely suitable, yet the response is casual. Not bad. At this moment, two professors approach. It appears you have all consciously formed your teams. One female professor speaks. She wears the magic department uniform with an elegant demeanor. She is Professor Rosalia from the magic department, while beside her stands Professor Glad from the night department. From today onward, they will jointly conduct a combined curriculum between the magic department and night department. Professor Glad takes over the conversation smoothly. The first class is a combat drill. The best way to confirm what has been learned is through actual combat. Therefore, each student will now be transported to the wilderness. Afterward, everyone will receive a map with a marked destination, and you must arrive there within 4 hours. You cannot be too fast or too slow. You must arrive precisely 4 hours later, at 2 o'clock in the afternoon. Defeating other students along the way will earn bonus points. Moments later, Louisa and I are transported to an unfamiliar location. Dense forest surrounds us, and the air is filled with the scent of soil and vegetation. We are about to check the map to determine our position, when we turn around and immediately spot two students, Jane Hex and Ned Palin. I think to myself that bottom rankers like these are not worth wasting time on. Normally I would simply walk away, but this time there are bonus points at stake, so I cannot pass up the opportunity. Without a word, Louisa leaps gracefully and charges forward. The two opponents hastily raise their hands to defend, yet they are still struck by Louisa's sword and instantly eliminated. I am somewhat surprised that the maps distributed by the professors actually have defensive magic cast on them. I wonder if these maps could be sold for money. On the other side, Professor Glad watches the monitoring screen and remarks that another group has been eliminated, and the elimination rate is even faster than he anticipated. So far, no students have been eliminated due to encountering magical beasts. All eliminations are due to conflicts between students. Glad then asks Rosalia if there are any teams of particular interest this time. Based on grades, the combination of Ludger and Almondo is the strongest, or perhaps the team of Carlot and Arya is also worth watching. However, the team that interests him most is the combination of Louisa and Fernand, as they were already a hot topic among students. Glad feels this combination is not particularly advantageous for Louisa. Is it really just about money? Besides, this Fernand fellow seems to have no obsession with grades whatsoever. However, Rosalia is puzzled. Why would Glad think that? If Fernand were willing, he could easily improve his ranking. In her view, he has no need to rely on Louisa at all, because this Fernand fellow, no matter what happens, always remains at 10th place. It is common for a genius to consistently hold first place, but to always stay at 10th place. Does that not seem strange? Moreover, Fernand's written exam scores are nearly perfect every time. He essentially loses points deliberately during the practical combat sections, and not too much or too little, just enough to maintain the threshold for residing in Rabbitous Hall. This means Fernand has actually been concealing his true strength all along. The recent incident where the training grounds were destroyed required considerable effort to find the culprit, only to discover it was Fernand and Louisa. With student-level abilities, such destruction should be impossible. This makes Glad even more curious. Then why did he hide his strength before? More importantly, why is he no longer hiding it now? At this moment, I'm using earth magic to survey the map location. While sensing the flow of magic underground, I quickly determine the direction. Meanwhile, Louisa efficiently deals with several students we encounter, with movements that are swift and decisive without any hesitation. I remind Louisa that we just need to head northeast from here. At this moment, a blinding lightning magic suddenly strikes. Seeing this, I immediately use earth magic to conjure a thick earthen wall to block it. Did not expect to run into you here, Fernand Fahrenberg. The attacker is none other than Carlod Neff, Louisa's former teammate. His gaze appears extremely hostile, clearly with ill intentions. Louisa angrily rebukes him. How can you suddenly attack from behind? That is a tactic only despicable people use. After speaking, both hands grip the sword tightly, ready for battle. Carlod lets out a cold laugh, his tone full of contempt. There is no such thing as despicable in battle. Did you forget the professor said this is actual combat? Besides, meeting this quickly could be considered fate. Louisa cannot understand why Carlod is so angry, but I see through his thoughts immediately. Probably upset about losing a teammate. What a narrow-minded fellow, still dwelling on something that has already ended. Louisa says coldly, I am not anyone's possession. There is no such thing as being taken away. Our conversation as if he were were not present completely enrages Carlod. His battle aura surges violently around him. Clearly, this conflict is now unavoidable. However, they are a high-ranking team, so defeating them will earn more bonus points. Louisa then reminds me, this opponent is not weak. I cannot stand by and watch anymore. I tell Louisa to be completely at ease. You fight at the front, while I provide magical support from behind. Although we have not practiced coordination much, with my magic and Louisa's exquisite swordsmanship, winning this battle is absolutely within reach. With this thought, I raise both hands high and immediately activate Earth magic. Countless stones burst from the ground skyward, then like sharp arrows, shoot toward Carlod. At the same time, Professor Rosalia stares at the monitoring screen and exclaims, in the western mountain area, there appears to be quite an intense conflict. Professor Glad leans in for a closer look and speculates, could it be that students have already engaged with magical beasts? Professor Rosalia then magnifies the screen. No, magical beasts do not appear in this area. Rather, as mentioned before, two top-ranked teams have encountered each other. This way, we can finally witness Fernand's true strength firsthand. On the battlefield, blue lightning and red energy intertwine and collide. Louisa suddenly feels considerably lighter. Is this support magic? When was it secretly cast? I turn back and wink. How is it? I told you my abilities are more than just 10th in the grade. Louisa is both annoyed and anxious. Now is not the time to be distracted. Deal with Arya first. As soon as the words fall, the two swords clash fiercely. At the same moment, violent blue lightning erupts around Carlod. The next moment, several electric arcs instantly entangle Louisa. At the same time, Arya charges forward wielding a golden sword, about to strike Louisa's vital point. Immediately, a massive stone suddenly descends from above, firmly blocking the attack. Arya's eyes widen in shock. What is happening? Where did this stone come from? Carlod looks around and discovers that Louisa, who is just in front of him, has instantly been transported to my side. I tell Louisa, this is a new type of magic recently developed by the family. It can freely exchange any objects of the same weight. Louisa is utterly speechless. How do you know my weight? I spread my hands innocently. It is written in the student records. Besides, do not let this stone's appearance fool you. Its actual weight is the same as yours, which is not heavy at all. Louisa grinds her teeth in anger, wishing she could immediately tear that student record to shreds. At this moment, Carlod is gathering dozens of lightning bolts, which then converge into a blinding beam of light. This is double casting, far exceeding student level, and it is also Carlod's trump card for firmly holding the top position in the second-year academy rankings. However, my eyes light up as I begin rapidly chanting an incantation. I have studied how to counter this technique, and now I can finally test its effectiveness. Carlod's lightning beam instantly erupts and rushes directly toward me. The dazzling blue light swallows everything in an instant. When the dust settles, I am remarkably standing in the same spot completely unharmed. Carlod is shocked into incoherence. How is it possible that this had no effect on you whatsoever? I shake my wrist to show them the storage device capable of absorbing magical power. Of course, I made some minor improvements beforehand. Although it was expensive and troublesome to create, the effect is indeed quite good. If it could be refined for mass production and sold on the market, it would definitely generate substantial profit. Carlod's face turns red with anger as he questions me. Using a divine artifact is absolutely despicable. I raise an eyebrow and counter. What is despicable in battle? Besides, did you forget the professor said this is actual combat training? Carlod is rendered speechless. Seizing the opportunity, I immediately shout to Louisa, right now, take down Arya immediately. A blue light flashes in Louisa's eyes, and with a sweep of the sword, Arya is instantly struck down to the ground. At the same time, a large group of examinees appears in the distance. Someone speculates. Among the students, not a single mage can withstand Carlod's lightning magic. It seems Fernand and Louisa are out of luck this time. However, Ludger shakes his head, feeling the opposite is true. Fernand has always disliked standing out, so he has been concealing his strength all along. But now that he is teamed with Louisa, he can no longer coast along as before and must keep pace with Louisa. Moreover, with Louisa's personality being obsessed with grades, if Fernand gets serious, his ranking will definitely skyrocket. Therefore, how could he easily allow this potential opponent to remain? Thus, Ludger turns to address the examinees behind him. Since you have chosen to follow me, I can guarantee your safe arrival at the destination and, as previously promised, a high ranking in this test. However, before that, one team must be eliminated, and that is Fernand Fahrenberg and Louisa Belchev. On the other side, Louisa raises a hand and slays a troll blocking the path. We are getting closer and closer to the destination. At this pace, first place might genuinely be achievable. Meanwhile, I stare at the troll's corpse with gleaming eyes. Troll blood is a key ingredient for making potions. Louisa rolls her eyes at me. Do you only see money in everything? However, there is little time for idle talk because first place must be secured. I shrug and calculate how many teams have been eliminated so far. Louisa grips the sword tightly and tells me, 8 teams already. Once we get the generous prize money, it will definitely be more worthwhile than the small change I'm collecting here. Just as Louisa finishes speaking, there is a sudden halt, and the expression becomes extremely grave. Seeing this, I also drop the joking demeanor. I can sense it. The team ahead has at least 20 members, and that is a conservative estimate. When Louisa identifies the descending figure as Almondo, the sword is drawn without hesitation for battle. The two swords clash fiercely, and the impact forces both to stagger backward. Yet Louisa instantly regains balance and charges again. Blue sword light and golden aura intertwining. At the same time, golden flames erupt around Ludger as he fiercely lunges in this direction. Intense red energy also surges around me, forcibly receiving the attack. Ludger is incredibly surprised that I have also mastered this kind of power. Battle intent surges in my eyes as red energy transforms into blades, clashing head-on with the golden flames. A thunderous boom erupts, and a dazzling explosion completely engulfs the entire area. Ludger gasps for breath and remarks that he originally just wanted to hide behind and watch the show. This fellow is something else, wiping out half of my people in an instant. This behavior does not resemble the eldest son of House Fahrenberg, who supposedly only has eyes for money. I shrug and indicate. This time I want to try for first place for fun. Ludger cannot help but scoff. That idea is far too dangerous. I cannot agree to it. Then he changes his tone and proposes a peaceful resolution. After all, there is less than an hour until the exam ends. If we continue fighting to the bitter end, none of us will reach the destination. How about Almondo and I take first place while Louisa and you take second place? Louisa roars in refusal, preferring to die in battle rather than surrender. I pretend to spread my hands. You heard it. My partner does not seem too willing. Ludger's gaze immediately turns cold. It appears the negotiation has failed. Then let me show you exactly what we are capable of. I chuckle lightly and suggest, let us compete another time. After speaking, I suddenly raise my staff, which bursts with blinding light. Ludger shouts in alarm, scatter quickly. There are magic traps preset beneath your feet. However, his team has already been blown away by the sudden magic, instantly losing combat capability. I put away my staff and pat Louisa, signaling a quick departure. The scene shifts to the final destination of the test. Professor Glad announces with a smile, this test has been successfully completed. We will now announce the final rankings. First place, Louisa Belchev and Fernand Fahrenberg. Second place, Ludger Schwaben and Almondo Donalds. Louisa's expression shows no change. Although the result was expected, there is still some surprise that two people with such incompatible personalities could actually achieve first place. Then Louisa suddenly mentions, you should know that freshman Emetian, right? Hearing this, I nod gently. Louisa continues to recall that a few nights ago, there was an encounter with Emetian. The situation was quite interesting, much like the scene I once described of secretly watching sword practice. This makes my face suddenly turn pale, because at this moment in my mind, the hidden portion of the prophecy is slowly surfacing. In the vision, Emetian extends a hand, sincerely requesting Louisa to become his knight, but Louisa resolutely does not grasp that hand. What follows is a blood-red sky, so oppressive it is suffocating. Thick miasma makes breathing even more difficult. An evil figure capable of destroying the world is fixated intently on Emetian. Louisa's figure stands blocking in front of him. In the prophecy, Emetian questions what Louisa is doing. Louisa's voice then slowly resonates. You once asked me if I would become your knight. I refused you then, but now things are different. I know who you are, know what you fight for, and that this is your destiny. A knight is both the sword that slays enemies and the shield that protects others. Before the words even finish, Louisa, holding the sword, charges without hesitation toward the demon god named Andromalius. The scene shifts again to a hospital bed. Emetian's gaze toward Louisa burns with intense fury. Those trying to drag you and House Belchev down, they are House Fahrenberg, right? What a filthy bunch of wealthy scoundrels. I instantly bristle, struggling to sit up and roaring at Emetian. You little punk, how dare you speak of your senior this way? Louisa hastily asks if my sudden collapse was due to overusing power. I am completely stunned. So I actually fainted just now? My mind then races rapidly. So this is the point where Emetian begins to see me as an enemy. This guy's hostility toward House Fahrenberg is actually because of this plot in the prophecy. But why was a new prophecy suddenly triggered? Moreover, everything is related to Louisa. Could this be foreshadowing that the events in the prophecy will soon occur? If this is truly the case, will that demon god named Andromalius, one of the 72 demons, really descend into this world? Time quickly advances to the next day. I sit in the carriage repeatedly contemplating that prophecy. Andromalius is the 72nd of the 72 demons, depicted as a man with black hair, black eyes, and a serpent coiled around his right arm. Yet no matter how many archives I search through, this is all the information available. The war with the demon gods occurred 1,000 years ago. The lack of detailed records is understandable. In this era, demon gods have long been considered mythology. After all, the first emperor had completely annihilated them. Logically, Emetian, as the savior in my prophecy, will surely eliminate all the demon gods, so this matter does not concern me greatly. However, the critical issue is that the prophecy explicitly states Louisa will be severely injured in the battle against Andromalius. So should I warn about this matter? At this moment, I am extremely conflicted. Previously, I tried to mention it briefly, only to be dismissed by Louisa as a lunatic with a damaged brain. Then I must find concrete proof of the demon god's existence to convince Louisa. Suddenly, I recall a key point in the prophecy. In a month, during the first-year Knight Department training competition, Emetian will defeat Barian, who ranks second. After that, no one in the academy will be able to match Emetian. Barian will consequently lose his knight title, family honor, and position as heir. Then he will be consumed by anger and unwillingness in his heart, and ultimately be possessed by a demon god. This is an excellent opportunity to prove the demon god's existence. What frustrates me is that the prophecy does not specify exactly when, where, or how Barian will be possessed. This portion of information seems shrouded in thick fog, impossible to see clearly. Could it be that certain conditions must be met to unlock it? This is truly annoying, as expected of a trap laid in prophecy. Meanwhile, discussions about Louisa and me at the academy never cease. Even now, it remains incomprehensible how Louisa Belchev could team up with Fernand and moreover achieve first place in the joint curriculum between the Knight Department and Magic Department. These words also reach Emetian's ears. He suddenly recalls that Gardner in the Soul Sword seems to greatly favor House Belchev but intensely dislikes House Fahrenberg. Gardner immediately retorts, do not mention these two families in the same breath. 1,000 years ago, the only knight who could fight alongside him and the previous emperor on the battlefield came from House Belchev. Yet now, people value the wealth of House Fahrenberg more than the glory of Belchev. Gardner grows increasingly agitated. If it were not for that war 1,000 years ago requiring financial support, the imperial family would never have any association whatsoever with those nouveau riches. Gardner suddenly changes the subject. He suggests Emetian should ask Fernand for some money. The equipment looks far too old and completely unworthy of imperial status. Gardner continues matter-of-factly, House Fahrenberg never directly states what they want. They excel at first establishing trust with others, then firmly grasping their target. Flattering Emetian like this surely indicates a desire to establish connections with the Almian family. Emetian furrows his brow. So Fernand's approach has ulterior motives? He then shakes his head, not believing believing that Fernand's kindness toward him has hidden agendas. Because when we first met and he was injured by a monster, I readily gave him a healing potion and was very concerned about his injuries. At that time, there was clearly no calculation in my eyes. So someone like me should not use trust as a bargaining chip. Therefore, asking me for money would be extremely disgraceful, since trust cannot be bought with money. Gardner roars, "You frustrating child. Even the previous emperor said having a wealthy supporter brings peace of mind. Just because he treated you to one meal, have you completely sided with him?" House Fahrenberg has never been one to provide pure goodwill. Unable to withstand Gardner's urging, Emetian still goes to my residence. The attendant politely replies, "I sincerely apologize, Master Emetian. I did relay your visit, but Master Fernand said he is currently very busy and asked that you return another time." Emetian feels somewhat dejected. "The senior is indeed busy. I have disturbed him," Gardner mutters within the soul sword. "This is too strange. People from House Fahrenberg would never react this way." On the other side, the attendant cannot help but ask why. Despite closely monitoring Emetian all along, he was sent away just now. I put down the documents in my hand. Many people seek out House Fahrenberg with similar purposes, essentially for money or resources. Emetian may be the same, but he is not the type to easily ask others for help. So I sent him back because I sensed he did not genuinely want to come. Once I am certain he completely trusts me, it will not be too late to win him over then. The attendant remains puzzled. Is it really necessary to go to such lengths for a declining imperial descendant? Emetian possesses absolutely outstanding qualities and potential. If I can make him my ally, he will be a tremendous asset in the future. The attendant worries that turning him away today might risk losing him. A calculating smile curves at the corner of my mouth. Of course not. I will keep opportunities open. Now go immediately to the main family's warehouse. Retrieve all the elixirs and send them to Emetian. Hyde's eyes widen in shock. The elixirs in the main warehouse are outrageously expensive. If we give him such valuable items but do not achieve the expected results, the loss will be substantial. I remain unconcerned. Then I will give him even more expensive things. There is nothing money cannot accomplish. If it fails, it simply means not enough money was given. Before long, Emetian receives a box and a note sent by House Fahrenberg. Gardner eagerly urges, "Quickly see what Fernand sent. Is that fellow apologizing for turning you away earlier?" Emetian opens the note. It reads, "This elixir was made for you. Please accept it, Junior. From your senior, Fernand." Upon seeing this, Gardner roars in anger. This kid ends every sentence with Junior. Is he trying to say a senior status is above the imperial family? His attention is then drawn to the elixir in the box, for it is actually the sacred bird's heart. The sacred bird is a spiritual bird that wields holy light. An elixir made from its core is extremely suitable for cultivating the light force of Almian swordsmanship. Gardner clicks his tongue in amazement. House Fahrenberg is truly a complete nouveau riche through and through. Emetian holds the elixir and silently vows not to disappoint my expectations. He will work even harder. Time passes quickly. 2 weeks go by, and since I ordered surveillance of Barian, nothing unusual has occurred. Gazing at the castle in the night, I fall into deep thought. By now, something major should have happened. Yet this guy does nothing all day except use the restroom. Then a terrible thought surges through my mind. Could the part about Barian being possessed by a demon be false? The most crucial aspect of the prophecy is the clue about the demon's existence. And if this part is false, then I may need to reconsider the prophecy's reliability. The vision suddenly appears. After being defeated by Emetian, Barian finally encounters his opponent again during the midterm exam. However, the outcome of this battle is already determined. Emetian is not a careless person, and will never lose to an opponent he has already defeated. Moreover, he has Gardner Finfison by his side, the greatest soul mentor. However, he does not know that the quietly growing demonic energy has already begun to silently erode Barian's body and mind. Immediately, a violent headache strikes, and I jolt awake from the dream. I am utterly incredulous. Now even dreams reveal prophecies? Yet I force myself to stand, and a flash of clarity appears in my eyes. Now I have finally figured out the exact timing of Barian's demonic possession. It occurs after he loses to Emetian again in the midterm exam. Then I suddenly realize that the first-year Night Department midterm practical exam is today. Prophecy fragments flash rapidly through my mind. Emetian and Barian will duel in the exam grounds, and Emetian's victory is not due to luck. He can defeat this seemingly impossible opponent precisely because Gardner is guiding him in secret. Therefore, before this happens, I need to find a reliable ally. When I find Louisa, arms are crossed, questioning whether gathering elixir herbs requires an escort. I explain that if we delay further, the medicinal properties will dissipate, so I must go now. Louisa appears extremely reluctant. Preparing for exams makes it difficult to spare time. I immediately display a knowing smile. If you come with me, the interest on House Belchev's debt can be waived for several more months after graduation. Soon we arrive at the northern mountain area of the academy. This greatly surprises Louisa. This place is currently being used as the first-year midterm exam grounds. Students from other grades who enter will be punished for violating school rules. I appear quite smug. There is nothing in this world that money cannot buy. Louisa's expression shows disdain at my blatant admission of bribing someone. Afterward, Louisa and I don cloaks and proceed quietly. We need to conceal our movements to avoid being spotted by professors and teaching assistants. Although I bribed Professor Glad, openly wandering around will still cause problems. In a moment, I suddenly halt and pull out the map. Emetian is currently ranked second in strength, very close to Barian, who ranks third. Have they already engaged? It appears we must hurry. Louisa suddenly realizes something. Is this not the professor's map in my hands? Students possessing the professor's exclusive map is also a violation of school rules. A trace of regret rises within me. Was bringing Louisa a mistake? I had forgotten this is someone whose heart is filled with a sense of justice. At this moment, a piercing shriek from a magical beast echoes in the distance. We abruptly halt, immediately followed by a desperate scream. When we follow the sound and arrive, we discover a first-year student lying on the ground unconscious with no obvious wounds, as if consciousness was lost after being attacked by a magical beast. Thanks to the defensive magic on the map, there are no injuries. However, something is strange. The magical beasts in this area should not be this fierce. The ground bears chaotic battle marks, as if torn by tremendous force, with surrounding vegetation crushed to pieces. My expression instantly becomes grave. Damn it, this is even earlier than I anticipated. I have not even had the chance to confirm Barion's condition. As soon as the words fall, a tremendous sound erupts from the forest, and a powerful oppressive force sweeps across the entire area. Louisa looks around, sensing a heavy atmosphere of unease permeating the forest. Just as a question is about to be asked, deadly danger is detected from behind. A massive monster charges forward with a roar. Seeing this, Louisa leaps into the air and strikes with a blade gleaming with cold blue light. The monster is struck and sent flying, crashing heavily to the ground. Before we can catch our breath, the monster actually struggles to stand up. The wound where its arm was severed shows no sign of bleeding whatsoever. Instead, it becomes even more berserk. Louisa is utterly astonished. Why is this thing still not down? Its arm was clearly severed. The monster's crimson eyes fixate on us, and a hideous grin spreads across its face. Then, with its remaining arm, it smashes the ground violently. Debris scatters everywhere, and the tremendous impact instantly fractures the earth. I swiftly raise my staff as red magical power rapidly concentrates. The next moment, countless rocks materialize from thin air and shoot precisely toward the monster's torso. The monster is struck by the dense barrage of rocks and staggers backward repeatedly, yet it still does not fall. The massive body merely sways precariously. I explain in a grave tone, this creature must have gone berserk, so it feels no pain whatsoever. Berserk monsters are completely different from ordinary magical beasts. They are obsessed solely with utterly killing the target before them. The only method is to directly sever its head. This was mentioned in the prophecy. Due to the demon's appearance, the magical beasts in this area will rampage everywhere. Right now, the professors and instructors are surely preoccupied dealing with sudden anomalies throughout the area and have no time for anything else. According to the prophecy's narrative, Barion will attack Emetian with accumulated magical power at this moment. Facing an overwhelming enemy, Emetian, who struggles desperately, will awaken an even stronger power at this time. With this thought, I immediately raise my staff and remind Louisa, first we deal with that troublesome creature. On the other side, Barion kneels on the exam ground, eyes blood red, staring at Emetian's retreating figure and shrieking hoarsely, "You again, Emetian!" Emetian turns to leave without the slightest pause in his stride. Barion roars wildly from behind, demanding to know where Emetian is going. "The duel is not over yet!" Emetian turns back coldly. "It is over. The match has concluded. You lost?" These words echo repeatedly in Barion's mind like a curse he cannot accept. He recalls the mockery he once heard. "There is nothing to apologize for. You have already failed the prince's expectations. Pathetic fool, your younger brother is far superior to you." These words pierce like needles into his heart. He had previously disappointed his family's expectations. If he loses again this time, he may completely lose his position as family heir. At this point, Barion kneels on the ground with only one thought in his mind. This time, he must defeat Emetian. A violent energy suddenly erupts from his body. Black demonic energy coils around him. Barion's features become distorted, his expression filled with unwillingness and fury as he shouts, "Emetian Almien!" Emetian calmly turns around, already prepared to meet the challenge. At this moment, Barion's attack carries destructive force. However, a golden light flashes, and Barion is instantly struck down to the ground. This strike is extraordinarily precise, far exceeding Barion's usual abilities. Gardner, in the Soul Sword, wears an expression of disdain. Why does this guy act like he is fighting for his life every time he sees you? So weak yet unable to accept defeat. What a disgraceful wretch. Not to mention he has completely lost the spirit of knighthood.